It's Learn Ubuntu Live, presented by LearnUbuntu.org, with your host, Tom Judge. LearnUbuntu.org presents Ubuntu Internet Fundamentals, the history of the Internet. I'm glad you could join us today. This presentation is part of our Ubuntu Internet Fundamentals course. This is the second chapter of the course, which is a little piece about the history of the Internet. This is about the Internet, how it started, and some of the important players that were involved in actually getting the Internet to the point that we know and love it today. If you're interested in the Internet in general, this will give you a better understanding of the Internet, which we spell with a capital I, of course. If you want to be an Internet designer, a web developer, a website administrator, website manager, enterprise web developer, security analyst, or you just want to be an informed user, this presentation is a good place to start. If you know nothing about the Internet, we're going to introduce you to the birth of the Internet. Let's go back to 1969. U.S. Defense Project, DARPA, over 40 years ago. Stanford Research Institute wanted to get connected on a wide area network to two other universities in California and one in Utah. And that was how the Internet started. People wanted to be able to access one computer from another location. Sounds simple today. Back then it was a whole new concept. Then, in 1975, we had almost 200 hosts on the Internet. Wow. Department of Advanced Projects Agency, DARPA, have been connected among 200 universities and computing centers. Now, at this time, TCP/IP, as we know it, didn't exist today. They use a thing called NCP, Network Control Protocol. Then, in 1983, we had the first profound change for the Internet. That's when the Defense Secretary of the United States mandated TCP/IP to be the de facto Internet protocol. That was 1983. That's a good 30 years ago. By 1988, the Internet had introduced to broadband TV connectivity. Prior to that, it was 56K. A lot of this was then, and still today, publicly held connections. There is no one person who owns the Internet. Everybody owns their little piece of it by becoming connected to it. Today, we just type in a URL in a browser, and next thing we know, we appear at a web page. But sometimes you know how that works underneath it all. You ever wonder about that? I do. In some ways, it's like your phone number. Each host on the Internet has a unique IP address. Of course, the exception is if you're behind a firewall, there's an exception to that. However, each host has a unique Internet address, and the trick is to find the Internet address of the host that you want. Here's some interesting folklore. In the old days, before we had domain name system, which you'll learn about in an upcoming chapter, all we had was the hosts file. And even today, your computer still has a host file, and as a developer, you may find that handy to use at times. What they used to do is they used to send each other copies of the host file around. And this is even before email. Originally, they didn't even have email. They just sent a text file, then a transfer of a text file from host to update who was the latest host file with the host they added. They're adding them every other day back then. Again, we're talking 200 hosts on the Internet, maybe 1,000 at some point. Now, I often wonder who invented the Internet. And I poke a little fun at Al Gore in this chapter, because some people say, oh, Al Gore invented the Internet. Well, he coined the term information highway, and we'll definitely give him credit for that. Here's the real people that founded the Internet. Leonard Kleinrock. He was the first to publish the paper Information Flow in Large Communication Nets. This is back in 1961. This predates DARPA. He created the initial idea of the ARPANET, the precursor to the Internet, in this paper he did a paper titled Information Flow in Large Communication Nets. You can probably still find it on the Internet if you Google it. Another Internet founder, we have to give respect where respect is due, Tim Berners-Lee. He's responsible for the browser and the HTML language. And there's a friendly quote from Mr. Lee and a picture of him, relatively recent, I believe. Another little-known founder of the Internet is J.C.R. Glickdiddler. Glickdiddler. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, sir. The director of IPTO. And he gave his vision of a galactic Internet. Now, this guy is way ahead of his time. Now we're talking about the galaxy here. But you know what? Dreams and ideas and technology is founded by forethinkers like this man. Another founder of the Internet, we'll give this man a little credit, Ray Tomlinson. He introduced network email in 1972. Today we take it for granted. Oh, you don't have it? I'll email you as an attachment. Oh, you need the information? I'll email you my address, or I'll email you directions to my party, or whatever. Today we take it for granted. Email, bang. In 1972, the year after I graduated high school, this man came up with the concept of email. And we give him credit for that. Some other important founders of the Internet. Here's a little four-banger picture for you. These gentlemen, Vinton Cerf, Robert Kahn, designed TCP/IP. This is 1973. And later they published it with the help of Yogan Dalal and Carl Sunshine. And here's some pictures I was able to locate for these heroes on the Internet to include in this presentation. Bob Metcalf. Let me tell you, I still like 3Com network cards. I had a problem on our server here. You know, I did it. Put a 3Com card in. I haven't had a problem since. I'm not trying to do a free commercial for you guys, but generally 3Com makes pretty good stuff. So Bob Metcalf developed Internet. So that's why it's 3Com. You're buying the card from the people that invented the concept of Internet, Ethernet rather, to begin with. Some more important founders of the Internet: Paul Macapetris and John Postal. DNS inventors. Now, wow, here we're talking. Without DNS, we'd have no Internet. Without DNS, you couldn't type something in a browser and have it magically appear for you in your web browser. Your web page magically appears. You simply enter a URL and it magically appears. This is like an information operator working full-time in the background, finding locations for people. And who could forget Linus Torvalds, the one who created the original Linux kernel, which so many of us use and depend on today. He could have kept it for himself, but he was generous and he shared. The concept of free and open source has grown to help us all for a better world. So today, how many people use the Internet today, huh? Looks like a lot to me. Internet users distribution by world region. 2012, this is almost a year ago. 2,405,518, 376 Internet users as of June 20th, 2012. And that's just the ones they can count. Internet browser usage. Interesting, in this chart we see that Chrome has become a much more popular browser as of late. Firefox is still holding its own. IE is up there also. When you develop web pages, you have to keep in mind that everybody might not be using the same browser as you. So you have to build in cross-browser compatibility. And that can be a bit of a pain. But you got to do it. You have to know what your audience is. Corporate web server usage shows very high in Microsoft still, leading the pack, gaining a little bit maybe on the end. But a lot of those, even those Microsoft machines, as far as the web server itself, the service that runs, here we see that Apache is still a leader. It took a little dip down for a while there, but and Microsoft was pulling up, and now Apache seems to have taken off. Remember, you can run Apache on Linux. You can also run it on a Microsoft machine. It's a very good, very stable web server, and that's the one that we're teaching in this course. As you see here, web server market share, Apache has grown quite significantly as of the last few years, and there's a good reason for that. If it works, if it's a good server, why not use it? So, since the 90s is where the real internet revolution seemed to begin, during the Clinton administration. It's evidenced by Hollywood's productions of movies like and Hackers that made the internet a media-savvy attraction. And now, today, the internet is one of the main media attractions. How many people watch Netflix or Hulu Plus or YouTube? And not only on the computer, people also watch it on their phones. Like me. I got Net on my phone. I got Hulu Plus on my phone and my tablet. The new media. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation on an introduction to the Internet, and we'll continue with the course. And be sure to do the lab exercises in every chapter. They get you the hands-on that you need to learn. Portions of this program were pre-recorded.